It's time for change to move into the real work of the universe. And it's time to understand that we use the matter state to reach the level of understanding of the soul of the man. Now you understand maybe why the Creator has sent his messengers in the name of whatever you have had. Is that they bring the ears, that it can be used when the time of the Messiah comes. They can teach the soul and the message, not to oppose. But by them understanding through those who have become Messiahs, to give from their souls to these to elevate, the job is made easy. The school is there and the students are devotedly there. Then there won't be any fight between what they call the Muslims and the Christians. The lamb and the lion will eat and sleep in the same nest. The Christians and the Muslims will sleep and pray in the mosque and in the same church in the name of their souls, not in the name of religion that is used to create so much conflict for the benefit of those who were the hyperactive children. The time has come, the time of change is here. And as I said, my wish is my command. If it's your wish to see peace, the path of peace is laid very clearly. It's the soul of the collective awareness. By giving will create that position of change. No other thing. There is no pen in the soul of the man. And I'm sure once you go into the universal community, you will never see anything written but the balance of the fields of the soul of the existence. Try to be humble enough not to become arrogant in the power that you have understood and you possess. Otherwise, you'll fall in the same path of the church and the mosque. This is what we promised, and this is what we have delivered. We have to understand the operation of the soul, and we have to understand the soul of the man is a star in the cosmos of the universe. If we compare the soul of the man and many of us, 7 billion in one collection, Earth is like a galaxy with so many stars. When we look in the depth of the universe, we see galaxies with hundreds of millions of stars in it. So is the planet Earth. It carries 7 billion beautiful stars, which are the soul of the man. Carries with it soul of so many trillions of animals, plants, and everything else. So if you look, when someone who does not see the physicality of the Earth and its content, what do they see? They see a galaxy with so many beautiful lights shining, each one according to their strength, each one according to their position. An infant has a beautiful soul, so has the old man. To those who do not see the physical dimension of this planet, but they see the strength of the field, we are clusters of stars. The human race, every single soul, no one from a distance sees, that's the soul of a fisherman, that's the soul of the cosmologist, that's the soul of a president. They all shine irrespective of the physicality. This is the magic. This is what the new science has to bring to man. When we look through our soul, we see nothing but we star in the other souls. And this is the break. This is the understanding. This is what all these teachings are about. Coming to mature to the next level, to understand in the deep space, the universe is the oyster for those souls who serve. Then man is ready to go into space. Then man is ready to become part of the universal community which has been promised. I never promised you heaven. I always promised you the elevation of the man to join the family. And now you have the key. It's you who has to open the door to understand, if I can raise the soul of these people or millions of other souls, that the physical life on this planet changes, then I'm worthy to be part of the universal community. To be there to serve, to expand. To be there, to be part, that in the cycle of life of universe, I become, in being part, I become part of the totality. When man reaches that point, a new dimension in the strength of the soul of the man will appear, which is beyond imagination of understanding of the physical life. It's the gate to the opening of the new life, in a new dimension, which is beyond imagination of what you might call a new beginning, a new cycle. Which that cycle carries with itself the origin of the creation of life in the universe and in the universe. It's the elevation of the soul to serve become the key, not a throne of the physical life. The time is right. The time has come for the man to go through this process.
Welcome everyone to the 53rd One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace. It's Tuesday, October 16th, 2018. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, Public Education in English. My name's Rick Crammon. I'll be your host today. And of course, as always in these workshops, we're joined with Caroline Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, and I believe she's ready and willing and able to begin today's workshop. Caroline, are you there?
Yes, Rick. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Depending where you are present in sharing this knowledge and understanding, I hope you all have a nice cup of coffee or tea. I have mine ready. I hope, Rick, you got yours ready too, and Vince and Flint, and everybody else which is working to this platform, for this platform to be so beautiful as it has been until 53, Rick, today.
That's right, 53.
It starts counting up, doesn't it?
Yes, amazing. That makes it, what, 1 week past 1 year, basically. So this is like the, in a way, the anniversary, you might say.
Or we can't say halfway, can we? Because we don't know how many more are about to come. If Mr. Keshe can, he will be present today. If not, we're going to have to skip till next time. So, as I suggested last time, we start with not the one which is on order today, but the next one. Rick, if you can, please. The commandment.
Okay, and you want that open on the web page so we can look at that, or on the public?
Usually here on the screen so that we can see. People can. Also, it's easier when you read. You contemplate sometimes different than when you hear it. It's getting read for you. It gives you more time to stand still.
Okay, just give me a minute. I'll get that lined up.
Take your time, Rick.
Okay, you should be able to see the page there now.
Yes, we do.
And just to remind people, this is on the keshefoundation.org website. And it's the commandments. It's found under keshefoundation.org/about/WPT/commandments. And this is the complete list of commandments. And there's the 10 commandments that are the initial ones that we're all familiar with, pretty much. And the following are the 14 commandments that was not delivered to man. And the missing commandments, you could say. And see, now we're down on the 14th one. Thou shalt not rape.
And we will skip this one till we have the presence of Mr. Keshe. Oh, there we go.
Okay. So you want to go to the next one then? The
yes, please.
15th, which is thou shalt not judge no one except himself, and not to be judged by no one.
Yes, please. Can you read it again, please?
Okay, so it goes, thou shalt not judge no one except himself, and not to be judged by no one.
Okay, we're gonna open the doors. Anybody from the knowledge seekers would like to start opening the understanding of this missing commandment which was not delivered?
And I'll remind the attendees they can raise their hand in the Zoom chat here, and you can ask a question or make your statement. If somebody has a comment in the live streaming, you can put it in the comments in live stream or one of the other social medias, and we should be able to pick up on that.
Nobody?
Well, it's traditionally quiet when we begin here, and
It wasn't with the first one, with the first commandment.
Okay.
But that's okay.
Hi, Rick. Hi, Carolina. It's
Hi.
Universal Council for the Polish Language. I would like to contribute, but I have a question first. Are we considering this at the sort of physicality level, or are we considering this commandment as sort of internal, as a guideline for our soul?
We always go by the two, Pete. Some people can get the explanation or the understanding easier with examples which are happening in the physicality, and then people which are already contemplating it on a higher level, on soul level. So you're free to share on which level you want to share.
Okay, thank you. So let's maybe start with sort of physicality, or this commandment in terms as the first 10 are usually interpreted, which means they are considered in relation to other people. Same like we have don't lie, don't rape, and so on and so on. So in this context, a lot of us, I guess, we are brought up this way that whatever we look at, our brain is trying to judge, to classify, same as we are judged in school from school days. There's always a mark, there's always an assignment, there's always an answer you have to give, and somebody else who's obviously much smarter than you in their own perception judges you, assesses you, and we grow up in our life. We grow up. Obviously, there are alternative educational systems, which I'm not going to talk about because that might be a long debate. Maybe later this will turn into such a debate. But there are alternative educational systems which try not to do so and try to focus on sort of kids' natural talents. But going back to the topic, we grow up being judged, and we take on the same. We repeat the same. We do the same as we were brought up. So going through our life, wherever we look, we walk down the street, we pass on, a woman or a man, doesn't matter, and we look at their hairstyle, we look at their face, we look at their shoes, we look at whatever we are usually focused on. So it's kind of a mirror. Whenever we look, we judge on somebody, in respect to whichever attribute of their appearance, the physical appearance. This is usually what we don't like about ourselves. This is usually what we think we are judged on. But moving on to another level of understanding is, first of all, why would we judge others? Definitely, we wouldn't like to be judged ourselves. Really, considering whichever of these commandments is along the lines that do as you like somebody else to do to you, or don't do something that you wouldn't like to be done to yourself. So we walk through our lives and we quite often we judge, which we think is the right way of going about things. The brain classifies. We are always marked for whatever we've done at school and so on. But whenever we judge somebody, there's another aspect which quite often we do not consider, which is all the circumstances that this person is in, because we don't know what happened in their life, we don't know what happened in their environment, and the way they behave, the way they are, the way whatever they do is quite often the result of all the different variables in our life. So we should never really judge, because we don't know the full circumstances. Maybe we would have behaved exactly the same way if we were exposed to that particular set of circumstances. So it's not, well, at least in my opinion, in my view, it's not good to make a judgment of whatever kind, not having the full information in front of you. You always, when you assess a situation, you always consider all the factors and so on. So since we do not ever have this full knowledge about anybody else, how can we how can we judge them? And the only person we know everything about is ourselves. This is where we can direct our judgment. We don't need to use this mirror reflection and, you know, judge on attributes of people which really are our own attributes which we don't like about ourselves. We can look into the mirror rather than look for this reflection in other people. We can just look into our own eyes, and we see the only person, the only soul that we can judge, because we know of all their circumstances, of our own circumstances. And this is the only judge, and the only person that should be judged is us by ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Anybody else? Anybody wants to?
Caroline.
Hi.
This is Dimitri. It's interesting what Pete said then on a physical level or a soul level there, because what popped into my head was, you know, if we, you know, I had the feeling, the thought that, you know, soul being the entity that it is, you know, there would be no judgment from I soul. You know, it doesn't have those filters. But we know that, you know, there are things that we deem as viruses in the dimension of the soul. So very much like a human, for self-preservation and continued existence, confirming the creator, judgment would need to be made for self-preservation. Yeah. So I mean, it's very much the same as what Pete said, you know, or maybe I misunderstood Pete, but you know, in some cases, a judgment does have to be made, you know, against another entity.
Yes, but is the judgment of the type, you know, I disagree with this situation, perhaps, you know, this isn't something, is it along the line of positioning, that you make a judgment, you know, for yourself, and you assess how good or bad the situation or that person or whoever we are talking about is, or do we focus our judgment on assessing, you know, another person, on thinking, oh gosh, she's ugly, you know, or I don't know, what a horrible person she is, or something like that, you know?
Yeah, but they're two different types of judgment there. One of them, where you said, is that person ugly? One of them is a judgment based on possibly service to self and ego and hierarchy of facial features, etc., and all that kind of arena. But you know, there's the other type of judgment where, you know, a judgment needs to, let's say, if we're talking about physicality, you may well be in a situation that you need to make judgment upon a person because they, you know, they might not have done anything yet, but you feel threatened by them, just, you know, for whatever reason. You know, are we allowed, you know, I say, are we allowed to do that? But, you know, should we question ourselves in judging, you know, things that, you know, would possibly kick in third dimension filters and create fear and be frightened or scared, you know? Does that make sense?
Yes, and I can see you are trying, because from one hand side, I mean, the two judgments are the same in a sense, but also I can see the distinction between, and these are sort of different circumstances. But the second type of judgment you just mentioned, you know, in relation to your own situation, you making a decision, reaction, and so on, I see no problem. This is absolutely fine. But what's the use of a judgment where, you know, you think in your head, or you tell somebody else, or you just laugh in your head, you know, this this person is stupid or this person is ugly or whatever other word we use. This type of judgment is, what does it serve? You know, we always talk about the purpose of our experiments using gases and so on and so on. But what does this type of judgment serve? It has no purpose, really. It's only to create certain, you know, emotions of hate, dislikeness, or whatever other kind, whatever judgment is. But it doesn't really serve any purpose in terms of our own existence. It's only sending, or, you know, bringing in these filtrants of things that are not nice, you know, of whatever we think about this person. Yeah? I mean, does it matter that, you know,
absolutely.
the person is rich or poor? Does it matter whether they have blonde hair or dark hair? And, you know, I see it as, you know, if it's not appropriate, or maybe in other words, if there's no purpose to it, then why judge along these emotional lines, really? You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't agree more with you, brother. You know, there can be possibly, you know, I was going to say there's you know, there might be a fine line between the two, but, you know, my next reaction is no, there isn't. You know, there is a very, very distinct difference between those two judgment. You know, judgment for preservation of learning, you know, more of judgment to preserve the beauty of creation, but a judgment against someone for, you know, possibly something that's not detrimental to creation, is, you know, as far as I see it, as far as I feel it, is nothing more than, it's an ignorant judgment. I shouldn't say that. It's not quite a judgment it is a judgment to serve himself, but it's kind of not. I guess it depends how you approach it, what sort of person you are. You know, we're all, you know, we're all generic, but the same way we're all very, very different. So we, you know, to the same situation, each one of us has got our own approach to it. You know, it's a hard one to, and maybe I'm just confusing myself. I don't know. I'll be quiet.
I don't know, this is going in a nice direction, and I didn't want to say it right at the start, but I will bring in my personal experience, because I think we set the scene to some extent already. So I think I shared this already, maybe even in this platform, but I'm not sure, so I'll maybe say it again. I can't remember how long ago it was. Now it's months, but I was sort of in an argument with somebody else, and at some point I could almost sense, like, if I was a witness to this argument, not taking an active part in it, like if I was stood by my side, and I could see my physicality working through reflexes, saying the same things as I would always say in this type of an argument, you know, bringing in the same arguments, arguing, shouting, and so on. And it was weird because, you know, you think you have control over your own body, of your thoughts, of what you're saying, and so on. But at the same time, you realize that you can enter this this mode in which you are 100% focused internally. You are somehow external to your own body, like a judge in a court case or something like that, you know. So it's strange observing and not really being able to react. So like the car is driving itself, you know, driverless car, or you could say, so the physicality drive itself by a well-established set of rules, reflexes, memories, just repeating the same as we usually do in our life. You know, it's quite well researched area that, you know, if, for example, our parents are alcoholics, we are on a good track somehow to repeat the same, because this is what we were taught, or we grew up with, and so on. So the same applies here. The situation, the argument was just going sort of taking the usual route, you can say, the route you would always take. And judging it from outside, looking from outside, I think this is the first time I actually touched on any of these commandments by actually experiencing it. You know, I should be judging. What am I doing? First of all, why this experience? It took me a while to realize and understand why this experience. Obviously, there were some teachings right away, public teachings exactly in the context of this experience, so you get the clues you need in order to solve the puzzle. And then when you think, oh, why do I experience it? Is to teach you a lesson, teach us a lesson. Why don't I experience it again? I mean, I only had it once. Maybe, you know, you only need to be shown once. This is the sort of the feedback our soul gives us. A lot of the time, the situations in our life we think are coincidental, where there is no such thing as coincidence, really. And sometimes the lessons you are given them periodically. You know, every now and then you get the same lesson right in your face from your soul. The situation appears because perhaps you haven't understood the lesson. Either you weren't ready to understand it, or you totally missed the point. So this is how I explained to myself, you know, why did it only ever happen once? Because we always, when we experience new sensations, we think this is a route to onto something, and the sensation is going to get deeper, or we're going to go deeper, and, you know, eventually we'll reach whatever state we are after. But then I realized, you know, this is only just a correction point. This is a sort of intervention or feedback, very rapid feedback from the soul that brings in this situation and gives you something in your face, gives you a very vivid signal. Pay attention to a situation like this. And when you sit down, when you stand still for a minute, you scratch your head and you start thinking, why? What was I doing? Okay, I was arguing. Should I be arguing? Why am I repeating the same things all over again, where it's me who can dictate whatever happens in the physicality? You know, I don't have to repeat the same arguments all over again, or I don't have to repeat the habits of whoever, you know, say my parents, for example, or somebody else. So really is a multi sort of, there are many lessons in this simple experience. Also the empowerment, you know, that we aren't conditioned to anything. We, you know, it's ourselves, our soul, that can direct us only, and nobody else. Same like nobody else can judge us, because the judgment also quite often gives a direction. You know, in the court case, judgment, left or right, guilty, not guilty, that decides on somebody else's life. And this is what we do when we judge. We should only be judging ourselves, looking for a correction of our own doing in our journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. That was an important point, I think, the idea of the observer being brought in there. We have two people with their hands up here. Arno had his hand up first, so if you want to go ahead, Arno, and then Gatwa.
Hello all. I want to explain something. The other one you judged, it's a reactor. And what do you give your reactor to receive? So if you judge someone else, his reactor is going to give the same what you give him. And if you make your own mistakes, other ones can judge you too, because you so allow them, because you judge them too. And I learned it because I judged in my life sometimes, because I came somewhere to work and that meant they did very wrong things. And it was not normal, but I judged him. And 3 months later, I find out the man he was working for created the environment to push him in that direction. So I was for the same choice. And then I stopped my work because I did not want to make the same mistake. And if I think somebody's work was ugly and I was laughing about it or about somebody else's mistakes to feel myself better, then later on I make the same mistakes, because that is when you judge it, you receive it. And now I can explain it because I understand the reactor of the physicality from the nano layers. When you intense your reactor, it gives. what you release. So when you judge a reactor, you release your own judgments, and not only for you, but only the bad vibes in there. If a ping pong ball has a field of 40,000 miles, how big is the field of a human being? If you judge it, how is your vibes creating the environment for others to exist? Because the cloud is not there, because it wants to go there. The environment was there to let it come. It's the same. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Arno. Gatwa, would you like to go ahead? I'm not hearing from Gatwa. Maybe he hasn't good connection there.
I would add something, Rick, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
So with this judgment of your own self, this is, if we look into sort of alternative systems, healing systems or whatever, quite a lot of them, sort of therapeutic ones, they rely on the fact that in order to solve a given condition in our body, we have to realize where it comes from, what sort of conflict created this emotion which led to that particular disease, to that particular condition. And if we look into 243rd Knowledge Seeker workshop on herpes, where the origin of it is a dream, is something you have not experienced in a physicality, but your brain, in order to not remember this horrible dream, this horrible memory of, you know, your life being in danger or whatever, ejects it from itself. And the extension of the brain is the skin, and then the rest of our body. But firstly, it's the skin. So that field strength, that energy of that dream that never sort of manifested in physicality, this is where our brain ejects it. So when you can judge something, when you become aware of it, like the example I gave of observing yourself, or you know, however, you just stand still, as we often say, and consider what you've done and judge yourself. And this is when you become aware of what you have done, you reflect on it. So you recognize that field strength. It's no longer something that has to hide anywhere within your own body and manifest later on at certain conditions and so on. By recalling it, by considering it, judging it through the right ethos, and taking a lesson from it, and, you know, applying it in the future, acting the right way in the future. And this is how you can resolve this this conflict, or this particular thing that your brain wanted to eject. And I think it's a way of living a healthy life as well, because if we look at certain people, you know, who are not attached to a lot of things that others are, you can live a really happy life and a healthy life as well. You know, we don't quite often in poor areas, because of the lack of food. We don't see a lot of medical conditions, a lot of diseases that we see in well-developed countries. So just to give sort of more examples on this, but basically the bottom line is, you know, you recognize it, you let it go, you release it. You don't have to no longer accumulate it in your body, whatever the situation was where, you know, you have to judge yourself on.
Thank you, Pete. Gatwa, did you want to say something, or maybe you just wanted to be a panelist so you could record there? I'm not sure.
Maybe later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've got Dan with his hand up as well. I think
I have a very bad internet connection.
Yes, it's coming through a little garbled there right now. Okay, where did Dan go? He had his hand up. Disappeared into the ethers here.
Oh, my hand was...
No, not you, Dan.
Okay.
You can mute. That's okay. Yes, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Good morning, everyone. I want to add something about judging myself. It's like researching my inside. It's a road. It's a way for not judging everybody, another person, or not making assumption when you don't have every point of view. No, when you don't know everything about one situation or one person, it's I don't know. I have for my experience, I have a disconnection when with the head and the stomach. When I angry or when I judge another person or think badly, I have this head migraine or stomach not disease. Sensation is strange, but no, not this is the point. Like Peter say, you can't not judge, making your point of view about thinking about one situation or one person. But it's not like George in this way of, oh, look, this person is very, very, I don't know, talk a lot, or another person is making me crazy, or another person, I don't know. It's when happened, everything I learned for my skin. It's one reason for this. Perhaps I mistake or miss one point. It might when happen something in my life, or in another life, in life of another person. It's because I have to learn. It's for my mistake, for my not thing. Mistake, point of view, for elevate myself, more for elevate my point of judgment, thinking. Depends how you're thinking. When you say everything is purple, not purple, when you are in love, pink, no? Everything is pink, it's red, it's blue, it's wonderful. It's from inside, it's not outside. It's your point of reference, I think. I already spoken too much. I make a break. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
I would maybe add also on the second part of this this commandment, and not to be judged by no one. And there are a lot of examples around. I think many of us know somebody or have known somebody who known of stories like this, where somebody can be living with a whatever condition, cancer, and so on, not diagnosed, of course. And then they go to the doctor, and then the doctor says, you have this and this, and you have so long to live, 2 months, 3 months, couple of weeks, or whatever is the diagnosis. And a lot of the time, how all this progresses depends on the person taking it. If you if you are letting to be judged by somebody else, and you believe in it, this is really, in many circumstances, this is your ceiling. This is only how high you can reach. You're gonna live within that limit of 2-3 months. But if you don't, let them judge you, and it's very surprising because a lot of people can live with many certain conditions for years and years and years. That was the case also of my grandfather, who had liver cancer and metastases, and for years he was fine. He knew there was something wrong with him. He never said this to anybody, and he was fine until he actually went to the hospital, got diagnosed, and the doctor said, you've got that long to live. And this was really how long he lived, because I think there is a huge emotional, psychological, name it whatever, at whichever level of understanding you are at, but that message, if you accept somebody else's judgment, it becomes your own, and then you limit yourself. You have no other options if you really believe in whatever the diagnosis is. And you see that people who really recover are those who say, oh, sorry, I don't want to swear, but they simply say, I don't believe it. This isn't for me. I need to live. I need to live to see my granddaughter, for example. And then there were cases where, somebody with a very severe condition lived to that day, and when the grandchild was born, died the following day. So a strong will, a strong target, strong will to live can often be stronger than somebody else's judgment. And this is one example where, if you don't let somebody to judge you, you are not getting enslaved by the judgment, but you leave your options open. Nothing is decided until you actually accept this judgment. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Anybody else like to go ahead?
Again, Dan. I don't know if wrong or not. I prefer when another judge me, because I have the possibility of making right thinking. Yes, it's not making reason or condition for being judged in be straight, be right, be honest, this is another commandment, but making everything right. You don't make the possibility of another for judging. It's not truly true, because when you make the thing right, also another, so from your head is judgment. But I prefer somebody judge me, because in this point I make the right conditions.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Let me see, Mark has some things he's been saying in the chat there. Do you want to say something in person, perhaps, Mark?
No, the wisdom of silence.
I think you're too modest. He mentions you forgive yourself and you're forgiven. And Peggy mentions in the chat, our soul decides.
Rick, Carolina. Hi, everyone. This is Peggy. If I may, just to add on to what the others have been presenting, is when you come across someone else or something else, and you get the abrasive side, something that's irritating you about that other being, it's a really good indication that there's something, oh, I'm sorry, my neighbors are not happy with me apparently. The abrasion is something that you're seeing of yourself in the behavior. It's not the person, but it's a behavior that you're perceiving. And that is always a good time to go inward and see what it is, a pattern within yourself, possibly something small that you do that you don't recognize. And it's a really good time to do a self-check. That's just something I wanted to interject and just to draw forward is it's the behavior, not the person, because the soul always decides. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. That's a good point. It's the behavior and not the person, not the being. So that makes it perhaps a little easier to let go of judgment.
So what's the difference between judgment and making a decision? And for example, the many people that are in, mentally, verbally, or abusing relationships, and how can they not judge and then make decisions based upon that judgment?
What do you mean by make a decision?
Well, saying, for instance, if you're in an abusive relationship and, you're pretty much judging that the other person that's doing the abusing is whatever, not a good person, and either you decide to take it or leave. So is that making a judgment, and is that making a decision, or how is the difference there? And not to do that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, to me, that's the difference is in positioning. So that if, say, there's some emotional event comes up, such as what you're describing, or a series of emotional events, then one has the option of identifying with that, and that means you're judging the other person, that they're being hard on you or they're abusing you. In the case of physical abuse, that's a little bit different, and it's not just a matter of judgment. You don't judge whether if someone hit you physically. You could have judgment against them, I suppose, but something is going to tell you to either stand your ground or leave. Fight or flight will kick in that situation, let's say. So it becomes a matter of positioning, I think. So if one gets involved with the judgment and who's right and wrong and things like that, then perhaps that ability to just leave in the situation or defend yourself, one or the other, gets interfered with by the act of judging and trying to figure out whether you should be there or not, and so on. So it becomes a matter of positioning. So you can be in one position or choose to be in a totally different position. Leave the room, go to some other place, take a break, have a timeout, go, whatever it is you do to take your mind off of that situation, let's say. So it becomes just instead of a judgment, it's a decision to make some sort of movement, that motion. So the emotion comes up and it resolves into a motion in some way or another, either to resolve the situation with the person or to leave the situation, just to go to a safe space somewhere or whatever. Because I think that part of that comes in with what Pete was saying, with this observer that comes in. The observer can kick in, especially under stressful circumstances. Pete was mentioning in, like an angry confrontation or, an argument, let's say. And then suddenly this observer pops up, this, let's call it the objective observer, because it's observing without any judgment, but it's observing what is going on in the cold hard facts, because it's observing not the other person so much, but observing oneself, and observing the whole scene, the whole picture, the whole situation, rather than being involved with one's own emotions and one's own conflicts and judgments and all the stuff that comes up in these stressful situations. It is possible to essentially let all that go or carry on with it, but at the same time have this objective observer that's able to just watch and notate without having to pass judgment on it, to have the associative mind kick in and say, well, is this like this previous situation? Is this like another situation? There's something should I be doing this and this and that? All these different scenarios can play out in one's mind. But to that objective observer, there's no need for all that. You just see what is happening and you accept it automatically, because the objective observer has that unconditional love attached to it, and it doesn't have the unbalanced perspective of our physicality self and its selfish mind, and it's trying to justify its existence and so on. And to the essential self, those games are not really valid. So it's kind of, it can observe those things, but generally doesn't like to partake in that. So, and this seems to pop up under certain circumstances, this observer. I'm wondering if other people have had that experience as well.
Rick, it's Peggy, and I have a ton of background noise, so I'm going to make this short. Yes, I many times throughout my life since being a very, very young toddler, have had the experience of being the observer, which is a very peaceful, because your emotions are not engaged. So it's a completely different state is the only word that comes to my mind right now, but I'm going to close because of all this noise. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Peggy. Thanks for reminding me, because that's another part of the experience I forgot to mention. That, being in this observer state, pretty much emotionless. You don't feel your heart going up and down like you usually do in these stressful situations, arguments, and so on. Like like you're not even a part of these emotions. You literally separate from the entire system, just there observing, not being involved emotionally at any level, which is the strangest thing, because you always feel something, right? You as a human being always have some feelings towards something, towards situation. You either are happy, or today you are either in a good mood or in a bad mood. There's always some emotion in the back of your head that's kind of leading your day or situation or whatever. But in this situation, no emotion.
I think that's a really, really big point, Pete. You just mentioned, for example, am I feeling good or feeling bad? Well, we have that good and bad judgment right there in our emotions, what we call our emotions and so on, their feelings, emotions, and all of that. But then at the same time, you mentioned this objective observer state, let's say, where there seems to be an absence of at least our ordinary emotions. You might say there might be some other prevailing mood or prevailing emotion that's beyond our regular emotions, but it seems to be that that's one of the indicators, is the absence of what we could say a negative emotion, or at least our ordinary, what we think are bad emotions, or maybe even absence of good emotions as well, what we call good. We have
yeah, Jalal had his hand up.
Yeah, Jalal, I thought you were there somewhere. I can't find you now. Oh, there you are.
I'm coming in 5 minutes only.
Oh, okay. So what about this idea of that was brought up, of a different state? That's part of this, perhaps the state or the presence of the essential self, or the observer, that some people might call it the witness, and perhaps there's other terms. Is that something that's Pia? Okay, we'll have Pia. If you want to go ahead, you should be able to there now.
Yes, hello. I also just want to add something, what you're talking about there, Rick. It's like it's a good guidance line. I really think it's some good words there. And it's like it can help us to, in this process, to estimate, to, for example, walk away from a situation in a way that you don't have to judge the other person, even that it can be very difficult for you or for me to stay in that situation. And I made an assessment that I had to leave this situation for now, for example. It's just an example. And this can help to be reminded that there can be a way to work with myself, not to escalate emotions. If I judge a person, I can start a whole circle of emotions, both in myself and in the situation, and it can be escalated. And so therefore this judgment is a really good way to work, to get more balanced and find new ways to walk. to walk the path. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Pia.
Thank you.
Okay, who else would like to?
Hi, Rick. Hi, everyone. So, what shall we say?
You have some wise words of wisdom for us today, Jalal?
I hope, Rick. What is the most beautiful word of Mr. Keshe? We are here to serve, not to be served. Yes? So all of us aiming to this position that we serve. Okay. How you serve and what you serve is a part of, we know now from this technology and this knowledge that everything is based on energy. So if you are speaking about from physicality perspective or emotion perspective or soul perspective, and this soul level we didn't reach until now, so we are speaking only from two parts here. Although we are going to the third one, is the soul level, and we will reach it. So from physicality perspective, what you're doing in physicality, that bring you to an energy level in physicality condition that you give. And give and receive, both of them is interaction, and both of them is serving. Because when you interact, you give and you take in all levels. So when you judge, what you will do? First in physicality level, no, first in emotion level, because you are judging from emotion level, whatever it is, and then come the second one from physicality. So in the emotion level, when you judge, you take a position. Okay, and this position, after this position, what you are doing? Are you allowing your energy to reach? That means that you give, or when you're judging, you do not take. So if you cut this giving, that mean, that mean you are stealing. Stealing from the highest source. Because the soul level, it's giver. And when you judge and you stop this field of energy to reach you, you also stealing, because you stop this sort of energy to reach the soul level through you. So you cannot ever judge, because before, as Carmen said, you do not know the whole story. The whole story is, there is physicality, and there is emotion, and there is a soul. These souls, all of them, they decided that, let's say, Jalal now do something wrong, speak a very bad word, made all of who is hearing be in bad position. Let's say that. Who knows if this word come from me? Actually, I done it, or the soul who bring me in this position to make this act, that you or another one, it will be, he will benefit from it, because either it will stop him from doing something, or either will stop him from hurting himself, or there is some danger after that, or he is hurry and you stop him. So you do not know, absolutely, you do not know the whole story. Only if you are in the soul level. And in the soul level, there is no judging, because all the lights is one. It's one light. It's only here in Earth position we are different creatures and different physicalities and different emotion. But in soul level, all of them is one. And they interact due to the position they are, give and take in harmony. So stealing is the most important thing. And do you know if you are really stealing from yourself or stealing from the others? How you know? So if you don't know, better to quit this position and cut it from beginning and don't judge. Whatever it happens for a purpose, and that we all know. And if you think this, what happens, is bad thing, then you will act depending on that. And who telling you that is bad thing? Maybe it is very good for you. Maybe it's pushing you to not doing something wrong, more wrong. And if you cut this flow of good energy, what's coming after that, you are stealing. Or you cut this flow of energy from your soul to this soul, it's also stealing. And I don't think you will stay in one position without interacting, ever. So you cannot be only observant. That I don't think. You will interact. Even if you don't move your body, your emotion will interact, and that will bring you more problems than you. It's better to interact. It's better. Because this sort of energy will stay inside you, it will not go out, and will start, you know what this sort of energy will do. I hope that this little words be benefit for someone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jalal. And another J. Jamila had her hand up. So if you want to go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello everyone. What I think is, I take it in another way. When we are not judging, or when we stop judging, it means that we are balanced inside ourselves. It means that we are secured, we feel secured, and we are not feeling any miss or any lack of something. Because if we start judging it, for me, it means that we are missing something, and we are seeking or searching, and we are searching around us. So if we judge something in a physical level, for example, it means that we are using our personal reference or referential that show us that we are missing, or we are not aligned, or we are not good enough. So we are comparing, or we are, so judgment maybe is a kind of comparison in good or in not good. So for me, not judging someone is, it means that we are in love soul, we are connected, and we are balanced. That's it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Jamila. The idea of balance and connectedness. What about the idea of unconditional love? Would that work into this? If one was in a state that was not judgmental, there would be, say, a state of unconditional love that would indicate a place of not having judgment of the other or even oneself, perhaps. There's just, there might be an observation of some behavior, but the unconditional love totally so supersedes any hesitation or any considerations one might have. For example, if one had unconditional love for their pet, a pet dog as an example, and maybe the dog did something that you didn't like, maybe on the floor of your living room or something. And if one truly had unconditional love, then one would understand that, you know, the dog had some undesirable behavior in terms of the outcome, but there wouldn't be any anger or resentment, because the unconditional love would take care of that. There's no residual leftovers in that case. There's no emotional interactions, because you would just reposition yourself, you know, put the dog outside and clean up the mess and deal with it, and without thinking, oh, that terrible dog that did this to me and ruined my life today. And you could get into a whole emotional tizzy over something like that, especially if it was someone else's dog, perhaps, where that unconditional love may not be so ingrained into the relationship. And that goes, I think, too, with our close friends and lovers. And, you know, we're probably more, well, generally, but not always, I suppose, more forgiving and more understanding for those that are close to us. And we forgive their mistakes easier than we might a stranger that suddenly thrusts some bad behavior at us. So what are some other ideas about that? How does this idea of observing observing without judgment. Can people maybe give some examples or some ideas about that in their life? We have Arno. Go ahead there. Whoops, I think we have to allow you to talk there. Go ahead, Arno, if you like.
Okay. Oh no, I was falling out. I come back later because I fall away. It's gone. I come. It will come back when we talk. Sorry.
Okay. Lawrence, I see you have a hand up here too. Let me get you set up.
Hello. Good afternoon.
I think I got you. Yeah, there we go.
I wanted to ask some questions because what do, say, those aliens outside of Earth who observe Earth to each other?
Sorry, Lawrence, you're going to have to try again. You broke up there, and you'll have to give us that sentence again. Something about what would the aliens?
Yeah, what are the aliens doing when they are looking at Earth from outside and see that the biosphere or the beings here are feeding on each other? Are they judging us, or are we judging ourselves by our actions? This is the point of the observer if we go to a third perspective completely outside of what we usually consider as our own reality. Do they observe? Do they judge us? Or do we judge ourselves by our actions?
They're probably just shaking their heads.
Well, I would look at it like when we look at, I don't know, a pile of worms and bugs and stuff that are, you know, when you loosen up some earth and you see a bunch of worms all entangled with each other, and you look at it and you just see a bunch of worms that are entangled with each other. That's what worms do. That's what bugs do. That's what, whatever situation we run into, that's what those life forms do. And when the aliens look down on Earth and see us all humans killing each other and raping and pillaging and greed and everything else that's part of humanity, then they probably just, like Flint says, shake their heads and just go, well, that's what humans do.
Shaking heads is already kind of judgment. By the way, to know the exact answer, it's the best to ask these aliens. So next time when you meet them, please ask them how do they feel about, or if they judge, or what do they think about. Meanwhile, you can just simply observe something and to understand or to acknowledge that that's a state of facts, without putting any label, whether this is good or bad, or you like it or you dislike it. So you don't need to judge something which you see. It's really an activity of human mind that, besides of just perceiving something, humans have the habit to attach all kinds of labels. You can look at a glass and you see a glass. Or you can look at a glass and start judging about, this glass is not washed pretty well, it has some spots. Probably they should use a better detergent or whatever. So this is already an auxiliary activity of the mind.
Or the famous one about, is the glass half full or half empty?
There are many tales about the glasses. You see, that's another thing when you attach things which are not there. It's just a glass in your front. It's not about the tale or story. This is another activity of the mind when you start attaching together in chains of similarities previous experiences which you had.
Right.
Buddhist monks have a kind of practice to know about 5 kind of perceptions when the simplest is just perceive, without thinking about, without judging about, just perceive what it is. And of course, there are other kinds of looking at things. When you look at something and you see, wow, this looks like an egg, because it's a similar shape, however, it's not an egg. So already you have two other kinds of evaluations here. One, it's about the similarity, another is the dissimilarity. And also you can have another kind of thing attached to perceptions when you perceive something and you know you have to act, you feel an urge to do something. You see a child who is almost falling from the children's cart, and without thinking too much, you just jump there to catch it, to not let it drop on the floor.
So are you saying, Shandor, that it would be a different part of the mind or something separate from the mind, let's say? That
I think it's a mental activity, but in order to have a mental activity, first you have to agree to have a mind. Next, you have to agree, and from your soul, you have to accept that your mind works in a way or in the other, or you may just forgot about why you have a mind which makes so many evaluations when you don't need them.
What about the direct perception that you spoke of? Is that coming from another part of the mind then?
No. That's the simplest thing. Just perceive what it is, without attaching to it willingly or unwillingly some all kind of labels. But you see, many people attach labels to things and they judge things compulsively, without even thinking that they want to judge something, but they immediately say, wow, how ugly is that dog, or how bad is this weather. You see, in the summer we wish some cool weather, in the winter we wish some hot weather, and we are never satisfied with what we have. So where is something wrong? Is there something wrong somewhere? And where is the error? What you can do, you can change your attitude if you are able to control it. You see, people respect monks in so many societies just because a simple thing that many monks have gained the ability to control their emotions. They have no bursts of emotions usually. They just keep a serenity or a calm, or like it was told about philosophers of the antique Greece, Athens especially. Somebody is trying to break some nuts.
Caroline, you got some action going on there. Your microphone is open.
Sorry.
Bon appetit. Okay. Anyway, I finished, so I let others add their own.
Was there a question on how others would see us from space? Was that the question? Was that one of the...
Whether they judge us or not, or when they see us, how it's here. So my answer is that the best thing is to ask them, because there may be different kind of how to say, extraterrestrials who may perceive us in different ways.
I'm sure they see us as quite primitive. I was watching a show on Easter Island, and back in those days, or how long?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Darling. Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I would like to stop you there for an instant, please, if I may so.
I just meant on the knowledge level.
No. What did Mr. Keshe again said so explicit? This is in our video. It's in our starting video. How would they perceive by knowledge? They make a judgment. Why would they even put a sticker of primitive? That's human language. This is where this topic comes in so important for all of us to understand. There is no judgment from nobody. It's a word, but it's a content of information about what? Because if it says, thou shalt not judge, and if we know that the commandments were given for merely and solely on soul level, and if you then got the additional extra information about how beautiful you are in the 99 beauties of God, and to contemplate those on yourself, then the word judgment is out of the window and out of the door. Being minor or superior, these words don't understand, they don't exist in the universe. We don't even use words. We are only working on field strength. You got so much to give, I have so much to give. What will we exchange to come in balance? Or if you give me more, then I can be part of you. So we are very much in the understanding to make the separation or how we behave in the physicality. But the most important thing is these commandments came for the soul level. What was not given to guide mankind to come to the level of the understanding of that time, so that they could mature in a different way, which we would, if we would have received them that time, we would be completely behaving and interacting and understanding today. These are the missing commandments. We never had them. But with our maturing process, with all the previous teachings, what Mr. Keshe has brought, he keeps on referring all the time to soul level. I know we talk into physicality to express ourselves, to understand, but there is no, that's the first word which comes into application or understanding. There is no higher and there is no lower. You're just a different field strength. And that's even in itself is beautiful, because the highest can give to the lowest. And that's the only interaction which is actually is happening. So you can't even put a judgment on yourself. I think that's the priority, not to judge yourself, because this one comes in combination with you don't need to forgive, because you have evolved to the most beautiful level that you could at this given moment with what is what it is. You can only evolve from this, even this most beautiful point, to another most beautiful point. The point of thou shalt not judge is you don't know the purpose of the soul. Mr. Keshe says it quite a few times in his teachings. If you pay attention, he says, I see the soul. I don't care what your physicality is, blah, 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 and how it is behaving and what it is doing. I am waiting until the soul reveals itself what its purpose is here at this given moment. Because that's where the beauty sits. Because nobody knows that, I'm going to give you a story which you all might and will most probably understand, if you allow me, is when you sit on a train. I'm going to give you a different one. Let's say I have somebody, an auntie in the family, which is always sick. She always is nutting, nagging, and she has a very, what we call a nasty character. And she's always at it. And if she can't disturb one, she will disturb the other one, or she will play pity me with one, or play even more pity me with another one. Now, nobody sits still and asks the question, what is this soul or this person on soul level serving the whole family? Nobody can see it because to you it's this, to another one is that. As Pete started the conversation, that's where the judging comes. Very slowly, but very rapidly, because that's what we've been told. But nobody goes and explains that if she says to one a nasty word, and then that other soul carries out that nasty word, then that soul shows itself in the what it decides to be. Or that soul can say, I'm not going to carry on with this nasty talk. I will reposition myself and I will do something else. I will go the opposite, the positive way. So that nasty auntie, what we will call the nasty auntie, has so many beautiful purposes to serve at that moment in that family. Because it makes the souls, all the ones which are around him, to reposition themselves to their own choice and their own judgment. But it's not because you don't see it. Exactly, you should not judge. Because she's serving the most beautiful thing in that family, because she's triggering everybody to show what they're going to do. That's the beauty in it. That's where the judgment comes from. You don't know what this purpose of this soul is here at this given moment on this planet. I can give you a different vision on it. When you have a beautiful family and their second or their third child is born with Down syndrome. We all know the stories about children with Down syndrome, and we all know the stories how families used to be put in very nasty positions because of that. And then you have the change which came quite a few years ago. Certain families start standing out and they're bringing these children up like the most normal children. They become beauty queens, they become models, they become geniuses, they go in kitchens and run their restaurants, they are making that difference. But if you ask yourself the question or analyze that question, if that child was never there, born with that purpose to have the Down syndrome, because that was his path he's chosen, how could he then be that balancer for so many other souls to show their purpose in how they would serve that boy with the Down syndrome? So that's where the judgments should not come. There should be no judgment whatsoever, because we don't know, each one of us, the purpose of the soul to be here, to serve. If it is in any shape or form, any color, any disease, any handicap, any nastiness, it has a purpose to serve. You just have to go and look how many people does it affect and how many people are responding to him to be in that pivot point. So where is the judgment then? Anybody, any input?
Carolina, it's Peggy. When I was young, very young, elementary school age, there were actually two separate families that I knew of, and they both had what they called at the time Mongoloid children, which are nowadays considered to be Down syndrome folks. And with these children, the thing that struck me at such a very young age was their compassion and their love And I saw a link in every face after that, that the person would say that they had Down syndrome. I would see within their body structures, within their faces, and it doesn't matter what the race. I'm talking, you know, globally, that they, and again, this is a judgment that I made at a young age, that I felt that these were very special beings, that they were actually above us because they had this extreme ability to love the things that these children had gone through in that time frame, in the 60s and 70s. It was really rough for them, and they loved through that, and it was a powerful thing to see and to recognize. And I feel grateful that my eyes were open at such a young age to be able to recognize it. So that's all. I just wanted to add that to what you were saying.
Hello, this is Moshfek, and I have something interesting to think about. Carolina was talking about purpose of others who are not quite, you know, agreeable, let's call it that for the moment. And this also brings us to the point that we have all these hyperactive children across the planet doing all sorts of things. But how do we suspend our judgment for these guys? And this is not an easy task, but at the same time, it's a very good learning experience in terms of how do we learn to, shall we call it, love them. Any thoughts?
By loving the souls. Their children are they walk on the world with your children, so you have to love them. Even I started this for my own sake, but doing that, I love myself too. Then I start changing. But I see the other person. When I see him and he has bad habits, I see why they have bad habits. They have something in their past. I can see that. You can see that too. If you don't judge, if you allow to see for yourself that the person has gone through suffering and pain to become this one, because the other persons around him that only create this environment to create him that way, like the feats of the queens in China a long time ago with they also shrink the feats. It's like the same, because when we are young we don't know our choice, because we now wish that all the children get this knowledge from the soul, so they know how they interact, so they know how they can choose who they want to be. We don't have the choice. We had to find it through suffering, and if you give to the other, you receive a feature, and then years later you see all the features you developed, and it's if you love the other, then that love creates his child. If you hate the other, that hate creates that child. You give it not only to him, but you also give it to all the children beneath him. And they walk upon the world with other children. And also, it hurts me when the soul is hurt that they act like that. Because when I was young, I did not know how to interact. I tried to help, because my dad was also always not happy and always emotionally disturbed. But he did everything for us in his what he could do to raise us, because he was alone at that time. But it is how do I say it? Like I can get the story I told before back. The other one where you have where you fill his reactor with, because it is also a reactor and it reacts on you. You feed the whole world with that. And if you give it love, then you feed the whole world with love, because the single ball is 40,000 miles. That is almost the same as the planet from if it was in the core of the planet. Then you almost have the whole planet. Dus if it is a human, it is the whole planet and beyond. Yeah, that is why I find my way to love others. And when I started living in Vienna, I did it in my flat. There were very hard ones. They could not change very fast. But after some years, they changed too. They are happy. They see the others are happy. Everybody wants to be happy. And sometimes we fall back. I fall too sometimes back, because I also judge sometimes. Because I want also some things in my meta state. But when I'm like this, I don't have this, because I want to give the right the right vibration and the right information where we all can benefit from it, because we are all together on this ship. Or we go all down, or we go all up. And that is why we love the enemy. Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Anyone else with some thoughts on this topic?
Hello again, it's Pia. I would like to add to this about the hyperactive children, what they're doing, and I just thought of also to support that there can be solutions, that it don't have to be judgment. If I, for example, is thinking about all those people who are in this position that they have to, they're, for example, working in the police or the judgment, they are the people who have to do something about what's happening in the globe, in this world today. And they can actually act without judgment. They are just the people who have to make some actions because they have the jobs and the positions to, or we are the people, we also have to make actions to move things. And this we can do with them without actually judgment. We can just know that we have to act, we have to do something, and we have to find solutions. And when we go for the solutions, we can do it without judgment. And we still have to take decisions and position ourselves. And but this can still be done without judgment. And then we come to the point about evaluate the souls. So we can start practicing this to the people who are doing what we mean. It's gives many problems for us here on Earth. The pollutions and the violence and the wars and everything. And then we can go for the solutions. And then we can skip the judgments. Because like I talked about before, judgments is just an acceleration of emotions. So we can, if we judge too much, like you talked about talking bad about this person, they're doing this and this and this. then we are accelerating the situations, and it can just create more of the negative. And I totally agree with what Sandra, you were talking about, that people have the tendency to put label on things, and that's a way we can step a bit back from all those emotions and just recognize there is something we have to get done if we want to make everything better. And this don't have involved negative emotions. So that was just what I was thinking about in this talk. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
May I ask a question, Rick?
Of course.
What if we know that we don't know the purpose of the soul, what it is here for to serve? What if we bliss every person, doesn't matter in what condition or what kind of appearance they appear in front of us? What if we just keep our mind blank, that the words of judgment cannot appear, but that we or
Hello?
yeah, I'm sorry, I got kicked out for a second. I do not know. What did you hear, Rick, before I got kicked?
I think it's something about, instead of words of judgment, we hear, then we couldn't hear what you were going to say.
Okay. Yeah, instead of judging, or actually the word judgment, even judging, doesn't matter if it's for you or for somebody else, it will not exist if we don't put any word, but just to elevate the person. Doesn't matter in what kind of shape or form or color or situation or behavior is appearing in front of us. What if we just simply straight away put whatever is suitable for you, to bless them, to elevate them, to give from your soul? You have a lot of ways that you can do. Because in the path that soul is working through, you're giving it the energy and the support for it to achieve for what purpose it is here to serve. And if we as knowledge seekers have gone through all the teachings of Mr. Keshe, and especially the soul teachings, I think the secret sits in there, that this commandment, although it's coming up now, I think that will be most probably the most beautiful way to work with it. Because even if we take awkward situations, and we call them hyperactive children, and we call them whatever name we have put on them, we have put a judgment. We even today, through the knowledge, we are using judgmental words. But what if we have, through the understanding of the teaching, start working through the giving, no matter what? Because we don't know. And a lot of us don't even know our own purpose, why we are here and what is our purpose to serve. we will rule out a lot. And if we just go purely on the giving, then we eradicate judgment. But at the same time, we prevent judgment on our own as well. Because either way, where we look in the corners of our own perception, there is a sticker on it. As Pete brought it, and so many of you have brought, everywhere there's stickers right across. We define them in conditions, or we define them in colors, or we define them in behavior, or we define them in illness, or power, or anger, or sadness, or happiness. But what if we don't go through those and we go through, I know you're on a path, I know you're on a journey, I support your journey. Wouldn't that be more easier to deal with this commandment?
Your words reminded me of the poem or offering from Gandhi at the first of our public wish document, which is, he starts out by offering, I offer you peace, I offer you love, I offer you friendship. There's no judgment at all. There's no room, there's no time for judgment, no room for judgment. You're too busy giving right off the bat, right? That's the first thing that's said. Then I see your beauty. Whoa, you give, and then, oh, you see the beauty. I hear your need. There's some need that I'm, hearing here. It doesn't mean yet that there's still no judgment, right? You see the beauty, you hear the need, there's no judgment there. It's just you simply are observing and hearing what is present. And then I feel your feelings, okay? There's no judgment of those feelings. You just feel the feelings of the other. You can perhaps, have compassion or whatever as a response, but there's no indication that there's any judgment involved. And then he comes out with, my wisdom flows from the highest source. Again, no judgment, it's just a claim. I salute that source in you. And again, there's no judgment, it's just hello to the me and you. And let us work together for unity and peace. I mean, it's so beautiful in the context of this commandment that we're looking at today, I think, because it is, in a way, it is the map or the blueprint how to present oneself and totally avoid the judgment, that part of our mind that's even involved in judgment, of there's no evaluation. Is this person higher or lower or sideways or left or right or up or down or this, color or this smell or whatever it happens to be? It's just you're giving. You are present and see, hear, and feel what is happening in that moment. And you let the wisdom flow from the highest source that you can provide and work together with it. And it just occurred to me in that context that it really makes sense. Okay, we have Dimitri.
There you have all the ingredients, Rick.
Yeah. And I was just going through it because I had it on a different window on my computer here, and I was referring back to the the commandment, thou shalt not judge no one except oneself, and not be judged by no one. Well, you don't have to get into the judgment part. In fact, if you think about it, if you're totally present in the moment, there's no room for judgment. You're too busy with the interaction of the giving, the offering, the seeing, the hearing, the feeling, all the stuff that's actually going on, rather than the judgment, which is essentially an imaginary thing that happens in our mind, because ultimately our judgment of whatever the situation, person, etc., it will be incomplete. It'll be less than that soul's ultimate manifestation of why it's here and so on. It'll be some aspect that we happen to be picking up on just because our perceptions and conditioning are picking up on that aspect, and our mind can get all wrapped up and involved in it, start evaluating and judging and comparing, the comparison mind, and associating with, is this like a previous experience? Is this like this other person I know? Is this like this? Is this similar to that? Am I going to, is this going to be a dangerous situation to get into? Is this going to be, all these considerations can come up. But if we're in that place before we even, if we're able to capture that place of being present, say in an exchange with someone else, or in any situation when it comes right down to it, and then offer the peace, the love, the friendship, see the beauty, hear the need, feel the feelings. And in some circumstances, maybe you have to run. But basically, generally, you won't have to, because even in, perhaps in the face of a roaring lion or bear that's bearing down on you, you might be able to stand your ground and simply be present. I've seen a YouTube video of a person with a large elephant bearing down on him at a fast rate, and it was an enraged elephant, and this person stopped it right in its tracks just by being present and didn't have any fear. And it was an amazing thing to see. And we see that with other examples as well, of course. Okay, Dimitri, did you have something you wanted to say there?
Thanks, Rick. I look at this and I do see judgment in it, but it's not a service to self detrimental to other judgment. When Pete spoke earlier, and he mentioned to see a person and think that they are ugly. Now, that is a judgment. Possibly you're basing that judgment on your personal preferences, or basing them against you. But to say, I see your beauty, it's the same line. That is judgment, but it's service to the entity you see. You're uplifting them, you're elevating them. I see your beauty, which is this judgment, but it's just the opposite to I see you're ugly because, of whatever reason. Only with I see your beauty, I hear your need, I feel your feelings. To be able to feel those feelings, to hear the need and to see the beauty, only from my perception, there needs to be an element of judgment there, but the ending, easy on the first one, I see your beauty. The ending is service to what I'm looking at, service to others, whatever entity I'm engaging with. Does that make sense?
I don't go with that. instead of beauty, let's say, I see your glow. So in other words,
again,
the glow of your being coming from inside of you, your essence, your soul coming through.
Yeah.
That's different than seeing your facial features of a beautiful face, or beautiful body, or beautiful whatever.
But to say
sorry, let me continue. It's the difference between beauty and ugly is the comparison mind that's not involved with this kind of beauty. That's what I'm saying. If you look at beauty and if you look at ugly as the opposite of beauty, well, if you say I see your glow, there's no opposite of glow. There's only absence of glow. And you know,
absolutely. But to acknowledge that glow, there has to be some sort of judgment, because you're acknowledging it. But it's
not a judgment, it's a perception of what is.
Yeah, but does judgment have to be detrimental? Why can judgment not be elevating?
Well, that's what it is. If you are not judging and all you are is perceiving that glow or beauty, someone could be totally angry and you're still perceiving that inner beauty that they have inside of themselves. Or even the children that are running the planet. I sometimes I can see the inner beauty in President Trump, for example. And I never thought I would be able to when he became president. And I'm almost shocked to say that right now. But there it is. I mean, maybe lots of people do see that, and maybe some don't at all. But it's an inner thing. It's not like I look at him as a beautiful physical person or anything like that. Nothing to do at all with physical beauty. I don't think he means physical beauty. Like there might be beauty in someone that's has no arms and no legs and is very ugly face besides, but they might have that.
Absolutely. I see your beauty could be just the beauty in their actions, what they're doing for others. But again, that is you're weighing it up. It's a judgment.
No, it's a perception rather than a judgment. This is what I'm saying. Is if you're present, then you see the beauty in the moment. There's a perception of it without having to judge it, because it's there. For example, say certain people, when they walk into a room, they just seem to fill the room. Their presence is so strong, so prevailing, and you can see it. You can almost feel it before they even come in the room. And when they come in, their presence just fills the room. You can see the beauty in that being of their presence, their beingness. And that goes beyond it. And again, it doesn't matter whether they're in a wheelchair and and they could be perhaps an animal rather than a human. There's some animals that just exude that inner strength and beauty, and it's not to do with the way they look necessarily, but it is the way they look in a way, but it's not. It's perceiving what is, as opposed to putting a judgment on what we think that we're perceiving. In other words, we're doing a mind bypass when we see directly and don't have the preconceptions that normally, like we're talking about beyond what we normally have as humans. Normally we have preconceptions. It's what our whole world is based on. belief that the next moment is attached to the previous moment and the moment after is somehow attached to that one, and it's all going to flow in a certain way according to the way that our life apparently goes and so on. But it may be possible to bypass the mind that normally gets involved in all the appraisals and comparisons and judgments that we have under normal interactions on virtually everything. And perhaps we can just let it go and see the person or the situation or the thing in front of us without having to put those judgments on it. It's a pretty big idea. It's not an easy thing to do, and not a small leap to get there. Caroline, I think, was alluding to that earlier.
Rick, would you say that, I mean, do you perceive the word judgment as only having detrimental attachment to it?
Detrimental to whom?
Well, just not being able to, you know, if I see your beauty, whatever that beauty is, if that, you know, I'm just trying to understand it from how I think. Mm-hmm. If there is, you know, if that's not judgment, that I see your beauty, is then the word judgment, does that only carry a you know, a weight to it that's not elevating? So it doesn't have to be service to self, but there is, you know, maybe you know, it's carrying baggage that, you know, in the totality of the picture of what we are going to be achieving, it's not part of that. Basically, I just want to know how you're weighing up the word judgment. You know, what it actually carries with it. Is there anything positive with that?
Can I butt in?
Please butt in, Caroline, and clarify.
Okay. Flint can help. Flint, can you pardon. Sorry. Can you go to one of the introduction videos where Mr. Keshe says that when you look from out of this planet and you look towards this planet, you know what I mean, Flint?
Was it in the Lisa video?
I don't know. There are two videos. There is one that Lisa made, and there is one that was made for the Universal Council. When he says you cannot see if it's a fisherman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what that is.
Can you take that part out and play it for us, please? Because I think that will clarify a lot.
Yeah, just a minute.
Thank you. At the same time as we are waiting, I will do a promotion, or I will try to incite you to be present at the Soul Teachings with Marie. They're happening on Monday evening, 5 o'clock she starts, and she has taken all the Soul Teachings and she plays part and she brings it on the table, and all together we are opening the Soul Teachings. One which is particularly very important to this topic today was what Mr. Keshe brought last Tuesday. If you remember, that part when Mr. Keshe came in will give you a lot of answers why we are most probably so confused. It also came again back in the part of the teaching of Marie yesterday when she bring it on the plate. And it is amazing how with 2 or 3 sentences, you can open up on the table and go to the depth for 2-3 hours. That's how heavy these gifts that Mr. Keshe has brought, that's how heavy they are. We go a lot, way too fast through the knowledge of Mr. Keshe. We jump and we skip and we miss a lot of points. I would advise and would really love to advise, and we started it with the soul teaching, to go very, very slowly and really look into how Mr. Keshe has put and why he's put it there. It's not random. He's built up in a process, and each one of us will take what he needs on his path of his own development, or journey we are living, or the purpose we are here to serve. And this part, if you can play it, Flint, should give you a lot of answers of what this one commandment is overshadowing. Go ahead, please, Flint.
To those who do not see the physical dimension of this planet, but they see the strength of the field, we are clusters of stars. The human race, every single soul, no one from a distance sees that's the soul of a fisherman, that's the soul of the cosmologist, that's the soul of the president. They all shine, irrespective of the physicality. This is the magic. This is what the new science has to bring to man. When we look through our soul, we see nothing but a star in the other souls. And this is the break. This is the understanding. This is what all these teachings are about.
Shall I continue?
A little bit more, and maybe even replay it again.
To those who do not see the physical dimension of this planet, but they see the strength of the field, we are clusters of stars. The human race, every single soul, no one from a distance sees that's the soul of a fisherman, that's the soul of the cosmologist, that's the soul of the president. They all shine, irrespective of the physicality. This is the magic. This is what the new science has to bring to man. When we look through our soul, we see nothing but a star in the other souls. And this is the break. This is the understanding. This is what all these teachings are about. Coming to mature to the next level, to understand in the deep space. The universe is the oyster for those souls who serve. Then man is ready to go into space. Then man is ready to become part of the universal community which has been promised. I never promised you heaven. I always promised you the elevation of the man to join the family. And now you have the key. It's you who has to open the door to understand, if I can raise the soul of these people or millions of other souls, that the physical life on this planet changes, then I'm worthy to be part of the universal community. To be there to serve, to expand, to be there, to be part, that in the cycle of life of universe, I become, in being part, I become part of the totality. When man reaches that point,
thank you.
A new
Yes, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Flint, for being so fast with this beautiful piece. You see, if I go back to the beginning, and we go every 1 or 2 minutes of what Mr. Keshe is speaking about, and if we put it in words, we will be here for another year or 2 years to understand the beauty of what he has brought. But Rick, it clicked on Rick very fast. He says, my God, he says, that brought me back to the blueprint of the World Peace Treaty. If you can bring it back up again, Rick, and read it again.
The, you mean
I offer you.
Oh, that one, sorry. Mm-hmm.
The whole purpose is for us to be together here. When you have become a knowledge seeker, you are representing all the knowledge seekers. You are presenting Mr. Keshe. You're presenting the universe. You're presenting you on your journey to serve. If through the part what I just allowed or asked Flynn to replay, and if this is our beauty, is there a judgment on beauty? Is there a judgment on, is there anything else above beauty? Why do we all start smiling when we see beauty? Why do we all even start crying when we see beauty? If we have taken that responsibility to be here as knowledge seekers, because the responsibility sits here, that when we go and share the knowledge which we have gathered here, we are responsible for what we are passing on. Not the person you're sharing it with, but you yourself, what you're about to share, that you know what you're sharing, what you're talking about, and that it will be given in his most beautiful way.
Why does judgment have to be negative?
Because there should be no judgment. No judgment. No means no. No means it's not there. So when you put a sticker on something with the attachment of something, we all know when we go into the emotional field, it's a field strength. It doesn't carry the words. It doesn't carry anything else. It doesn't even carry any assumptions. It's just what it is. That's exactly what he's explaining in the video. When you don't, and you just look, this is what we don't see because we have covered it in a physicality. But the content of each physical form is that light and that beauty. And these are the words which are at our disposition to at least explain. When we look at a tree, or we look at a flower, or we look at a dog, or we look at a cat or a mouse, or a human being, or an elephant, or a leopard, we don't see the soul. We see a physical appearance. But through the teaching of Mr. Keshe, we know there is a soul in there. And we know how beautiful that soul is. So all the boundaries and the wording and whatever you want to attach to it disappears if we work on that principle. And I think with Rick bringing this forward is that these are all the recognition points through the physicality to acknowledge what is inside that other being. Because they're just names, but when we go to the field strength of the beauty, then it is only beauty. But the thing is that judgment is to give. What? Beg your pardon, sir?
So what did you say then? Judgment is to what?
There is no judgment. That's the commandment.
Okay, let me put it to you this way. So as I change, I'll put it like that. You know, things that I would look at, for example,
Are you breaking up?
You're breaking up there.
I look at a plant.
Sorry.
Is it a bit better now?
Possibly. We lost you at your example. You said something.
Okay, so I just use a plant, for example. You know, I look at that plant and I have a connection with that plant. There is some sort of plasma exchange and an emotional interaction, and you know, I get feelings from that plant. But then when I see that plant again, I get different feelings from it. You know, the comparison between that, that's a judgment on my part on how the emotions are different from the interaction, and that's where judgment is not detrimental. It's part of change. Does that make sense?
Are you observing the change, or are you comparing it to previous change?
I'm always observing the change. You know, I don't want to say, you know, this is what I am, but I'm very comfortable with placing myself in the envelope of schizophrenic. You know, everything I do, I'm always observing myself inertly. There is no it's not so much there is no reaction, because there is a reaction, because I feel the emotions that I'm having in that situation. Okay. You know, and
is
I think
the one that
judge myself, and because I'm so comfortable with you know, always having a finger pointed at myself by myself, you know, always having that observer.
So is the observer the one that's experiencing the emotions, or the situation, or is the observer?
No, the observer is literally, as the word says, observing the entity that is having the situations and the field strength of emotions, whatever the situation is.
Right. Okay. So the observer is present, you might say, doing what it does is observing. So maybe you could say it could, from the point of view of what we're reading here, you could say the observer is the one that sees the beauty and hears the need and actually feels the feelings that the physicality is going through, let's say.
Yeah, very much so. The observer will see the beauty, hear the need, and feel the feelings, but it's you know, it's not the observer, the other entity, me, for instance, that is in that interaction where you know, this you know, I don't know whether I can call the observer the soul, because it's not. It's another entity. You know, it's not. The observer's not your soul. Definitely not. But it's sorry. It's a really interesting thought pattern. It's that, you know, that whole chain of thought is very much cyclical and almost infinite, you know. I don't know, I'm finding myself hard to explain now. I'm going to come back to you, okay?
Yeah, thanks.
Rick, I have a little question. Do you see the other soul, or do you see from your soul the other soul? From inside, you looking another glowing soul.
Well, that gets into discriminating or the question of, is there an other? Who is the other that we speak of? If we're all one soul, then who is the other? I noticed that when in the excerpt that we listened to with Mr. Keshe speaking, he keeps reminding us that he says they see the strength of the fields. They don't see the physicality. They see the strength of the fields, and they look through the soul, and they see nothing but the star and other souls, and they all shine. These are some of the words that he used. So it's they see the strength of the fields. So instead of judging those fields, there's no judgment. You just see the other plasmas, and you
so that could well be
assess
the glow
them
you were
in terms of their strength. Pardon me?
That could well be the glow that you were referring to.
Right. So that could be the strength, for example. It could be a purple strength, a red strength, a green strength, different other ways other than colors to describe, the field strength of some entity you're looking at, whether it's one person or maybe a whole group, maybe a band, or at a concert, you might feel the strength, the field strength of that whole entity, that whole concert, all the beings in that show, for example. So, but you might not see them as a physicality. You might see it just as one entity that's a shining, glowing entity, or maybe with 1,000 points of light or something like that.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Adding to that, and this is very beautiful what Caroline brought. Do you believe in Mr. Keshe? Do you believe what Mr. Keshe teaching us is the right? If you believe that, then you believe you are a star. And if you believe that you are a star, and then you start to see the stars and the others. Only when you believe in yourself, you will see the others as the stars. And when you see them, you achieve this Mr. Keshe teaching. Because this is the purpose. This is the whole teaching. That you know you are a star. And all of that is tools to let this star shine in you. This we need to work in it, and real way. Some will achieve it with the plasma, some will achieve it with maghraf, and You have it all. You need only to believe in yourself. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jalal. I see Flint has sent me the quote here, and from what we got from Mr. Keshe when he says, we look in the depth of the universe, we see galaxies with hundreds of millions of stars in it. So is the planet Earth, carries 7 billion beautiful stars, which are the soul of the man. And he mentions they all shine irrespective of their physicality. Irrespective of their physicality. And yet, most of our actions and most of what we do is based on the physicality. That's all of our advertising and our things we're told to do and not do, and our beliefs and attitudes, and especially our judgments are essentially based on the physicality. So that's why that commandment is so important, and it comes from a soul basis. That's the difference. But it's in a different category is the problem, I guess. It's hard to get a handle on because we're so used to using our judging mind to get a handle on things. Because there's so many things in this environment of planet Earth, and with all the wonders of the physical universe, and all the beauties to look at, sometimes it's hard to see the inner beauty, the shining light part.
I've got a question for you. The observer, the observer, fully detached from the emotions created by the soul of the physicality, is that entity is it exactly the same as your observer? Because there's no emotional attachment there. But it's not the soul. It's not the soul of the man.
Well,
but is it a generic entity? You know? Do you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, I don't know what entity you happen to be talking about, but if it seems like if it is objective, impartial observer that is able to offer peace, love, and friendship, see the beauty, hear the need, feel the feelings, and have the wisdom flow from the highest source, then that would be the same source in you, yes.
Yeah, but it's not offering anything.
Pardon me?
It's not offering anything. It's literally just observing. There's no give or take. Well, I suppose there is take because it's taken in from the environment because it's observing, but there's just no reaction to it.
Dimitri,
that's why there is a reaction in that environment. There is a reaction. When you're present, there is certainly a reaction in the environment, even though it may not be coming back immediately in the physicality, but you can be sure it has an effect. Go ahead, Caroline.
I think, Dimitri, were you here last week on Tuesday?
Yes.
Were you present where Mr. Keshe was?
Spoke about enemy.
No, when Mr. Keshe came speaking last week?
To the private teaching?
No,
in the public platform last Tuesday, the same platform as today.
Yes, it was. Not right at the beginning, but I joined late.
Mr. Keshe only came in later on.
Okay,
If
yes,
you go back, if you go back, he explained something which has not clicked on a lot of people. He says that the physicality would not suffer so much if the soul was willing to give more. So I use an example. If you close your eyes and you close your ears and you close your mouth, who's within you? Who's conversing with you? Who has the communication within you? Not your neighbor, not who is in front of you, but you with you. And it's not even the physicality, which is what you think it is, but the thoughts which are going through your mind, if I may put it this way for easier understanding, that's the consumer of your physicality. Because I'll give you an example. If you get up in the morning and you have so many bills to pay and you have so many worries and you are really, having a tough job, which puts a lot of stress on you, and you have children and you have a husband or a wife, you have a dog and you have a home to take care of, those are all taking from somewhere energy. So if your body is an energy because it's warm, it digests foods, it can do all its functions, so it has a certain amount of energy. Now, what is going on, and your ears and your eyes and your mouth is still closed, who's the biggest consumer? Because it's well known and proven that people which are only sitting behind a desk and work with their mind are consuming more than a farmer which goes out and works on the fields. Because it's a different energy consumption. So if we know that your soul sits within you, it has its seat within your physicality. So who's then the biggest consumer if you now sit still and you don't use your eyes and you don't use your ears and you don't use your mouth? Then it is the one who's conversing with you, within you, which is the consumer, isn't it? And that is the point when you take the 99 beauties of God and all the commandments, it's that's the only one which you need to take in consideration, because that's the one which will and is the releaser of its beauties. That's the one which has everything, unlimited. So isn't it then coming to the point that what you create in your mind and then carry it out through the physicality, you can't punish your physicality, can you? It's the one which has created before even you moved your physical body. So you are in charge of everything within you, nothing to do outside you. And if you don't judge yourself and you don't put no judgment on nobody else, because when you do the interaction within you with whatever we have accumulated on knowledge and beauty and expansion, that we can do it the right way through all the teachings, then it brings it back to you, not to Rick, not to me, to nobody else. Because you're the majority of the consumption of your energy. But you're also the one who is in charge, where that energy will be deployed. How are you going to deploy it? And if you read what is here in front of you, and now you go to the deployment of, and Mr. Keshe always says, nothing to do with nobody else. I offer you peace, you offer peace within you. I offer you love, love yourself. I offer you friendship, which is the friendship of your soul with your physicality. Be kind to your physicality. Don't worn it down with all these, let's call it futilities, or imaginary, or reality. Doesn't matter. I see your beauty, which means acknowledge the beauty of your soul, which now you know today how beautiful it is. I hear your need, which means what you create in your thoughts and what you're about to carry out, because you're going to instruct your physical body to go and get for what you need. It might be an apple, it might be a kiss, it might be a cuddle, it might be a nasty word, but you will fulfill it. But you're the decision maker in what you were about to fulfill. I feel your feelings. It's the same. How do you feel inside? How is your mind? Observe it. That's your best balancer. My wisdom flows from the highest source, which is the acknowledgement that we are a creator and we are part of the creation and we are part of the creator. But at the same time, we are a creator, because if everything is shut and you're whatever you're doing above in these sentences within you before then your physicality moves, you're the creator of it. That's the responsibility you take or you don't take, because it doesn't exclude you. If you're going to do the walk or you're not going to do the walk, it doesn't exclude you from the creation, and you're creating and you're part of the totality. But if you allow that wisdom, that beauty to flow from what you have, and then I salute that source in you, which means you embrace it in the acknowledgement you are. The only letter here says, the last one, let us work together, is when you sit still at this given moment and your eyes and your ears and your mouth are closed, because I'm doing the speaking, and you can follow the path. Let us work together means your voice, which is your soul, your partner, which talks to you, which works within you, without your physicality. So embrace your physicality by giving the all above orders to carry it out in the physicality. Will that not be allowing for unity and peace within you first? And then the minute you interact, because you open your eyes, you uncover your ears, and you open your mouth, isn't that then that the most beautiful thing can come from you? And isn't that then your creation? Without judgment, without higher and lower, without lying, and all the other commandments which will come on our path because we start working with them. Isn't that the acknowledgement that it is only you who is the main decision maker in everything your physicality is about to carry out? So where does the question comes from, what do you think? Where actually mainly sits, what do you think yourself? What are you about to do before you do? And this is what Mr. Keshe was explaining last week. You, which is the voice, is the decision maker, how much he's willing to release, or how much he's willing to give, or what he's about to create by if he gets up and he starts bullabacking somebody, or he's going to walk to somebody and kiss and cuddle and say, I love you. Where does that source comes from? From your soul. Because you instruct your physicality, which is your vehicle that you use to do all those things, not vice versa. Because if you put your mind at blank, your body won't move. It will not go and interact, and it will not do good or bad or whatever. It first starts with the seed, which is the soul. And it's when you understand that, from that point you can explore in full consciousness without judgment, to embrace the world and to acknowledge that everyone you're about to meet, you're about to speak to, you're about to embrace, or you're about to hurt, is your decision. And if we look at the 99 beauties of God, then there comes the peace offer. There comes the word of love. There comes the friendship, because then you become two. It's no longer only the voice, which then whatever carries out, because you walk as a friend in your creation, because you have embraced your own beauty. You carry out your own beauty, and there's nothing short. Let us work together for unity and peace, is because where we are in the form we are in a physicality, we are in a physical world, we are on this beautiful planet, but we chose to be here because we are on a journey and we will reappear somewhere else. And that's the journey, what Mr. Keshe says, before you can go any further, first acknowledge all these all above. And the beauty is that when you, at this given moment, can achieve that with you, only with you and your physicality, you automatically are elevating all the others. Because then this part, the same, kickstarts, because then you behave what you are yourself, you ignite that into the image of the others, because it's you, and they are you, and you are there. Because we're all on the same journey on this planet. We all go, and you know why it is, it's maybe very strange to bring it up, but I recently went to a funeral. And it's a path we know. It's a path all of us have seen from when we are young, because of our grandparents or parents or cousins or nieces or friends who we all have been witnessing where the journey goes. And with the knowledge Mr. Keshe is bringing, he says you don't even need to go through that journey, because it can be so much more beautiful. But first, we had to go through these first steps, which are just here in a few sentences. He said, the lion and the lamb is not the lamb and the lion outside in the garden or in the field or in the wilderness. It's the physicality with the soul. And it's the soul that has to create and become that awareness by its knowledge to give freely to the physicality, that it can be in peace. It doesn't need to create the illnesses. It doesn't need to suffer. It doesn't need to be tired. And it doesn't even need to put its physicality down to go where it needs to go on its journey. Doesn't that make it more understandable, Rick?
Well put, Caroline. Yes. Now, if we can all just remember in the middle of that argument that comes up inevitably, or at other times when we're stressed out, that's the secret, I think, is to be able to come from that highest source during the times of stress that our physicality wants to jump in and fight or flight kicks in, or some other aspect of our physicality that's always defensive or offensive in some manner or another. But we can learn to be just simply present. And when we are present, then that peace, love, and friendship is a natural function of that simple presence.
May I use an example how you can, I don't know if I can use the word test. You know, Mr. Keshe said you can. You remember the debates which were released about you can, I am. You can do a really fast, quick test. And I think you all will find the answer straight away in the situation because you've been there. You already been there before, but maybe you didn't put attention to it. But I'm going to tell you a story about how you can observe yourself, how fast it works to just put those from which are on the screen into action. Let's say you've done something wrong, or you said something wrong, or you know that you hurted somebody. The minute you realize it, you know, you have that nasty crawling feeling in your stomach or on your liver or whatever you say, or you get a headache, or you really don't feel comfortable with it. Doesn't matter what you have done. But if you get up with the decision, which happens in your head, because you're there making all your decisions, you get up, you take your car or whatever you need, and you go back to the place or the person where it happened and how it happened, and you stand there and you acknowledge what has happened. You can do it in an apology, or you can go and just whatever is needed to reverse the condition what was created. Haven't you noticed that the minute you make that decision to go back to correct, you get like a swarm of energy? You feel good. You still are hesitating. You know that the fear is playing around. You know, what will the reaction be? Will I be kicked in, out, or will I be scorned, or will I be shouted at? But you still carry on with the courage to go and do it. Your whole energy field changes. You have so much energy because your soul is carrying you for that part to support you to be able to do it, to carry it out in the physicality. And you feel so much lighter when it's all done, no matter what the reaction was. But I remember that Dr. Klaus came and he said, especially about the one with the lying, he said, I told the lie. I knew I told the lie. And he said, I was so sick. I felt so, blech. He says, and I just went back and I told the person, I told you something which was not correct. And I went and I corrected. And he said, I didn't get shouted out. He says, the reaction was astonishing good. I didn't expect that. but I felt so good. So why don't we learn to love ourselves by giving ourselves at least that credit that we are in charge and that we can do it, and that you receive, your soul rewards you, or the universe rewards you so fast for it? Isn't it then easier to do something in that perspective so fast, or learn to prevent not to do it and be always higher in energy because of that decision making? I think it's easier to live with a sweetie than with a whip. And I think this, what Mr. Keshe is bringing is, I'm bringing you so much sweeties. But are you willing to accept them? And I know it's not easy. But when we sit down all together and we go into these platforms of talking and exchanging, we are all there for one another. But we are also here because each one of us is here for a purpose. And if we can acknowledge that purpose, why we are here today on this platform, that reveals your mission. And then it makes it easier for you to go higher in strength, and you will feel better, and you will leave and take care of whatever is pulling you down much faster. Because I was wondering why Jalal said, do you believe in what Mr. Keshe is teaching? Because it's not so much what Mr. Keshe is teaching, is what do you believe about yourself? What do you acknowledge about yourself? Is much more important, because the knowledge is everywhere, it's been repetitive, been taught everywhere, but it's never been able to be connected on the level as we are connecting today, because we have reached, as Mr. Keshe said, we have reached the level of all the prophets of the past. We had to come to this level of field strength to be able to receive this field strength which Mr. Keshe is bringing and so many others are bringing now, to change our direction and our path. And he has explained, I didn't promise you what, but I give you that higher step. He cannot elevate you, not in that way. He is elevating through knowledge. But you're the decision maker. If you're going to take it, embrace it, work with it, and increase your field strength because of it. Maybe, Rick, for the next commandment, for next week, could you bring it on the table, please? Can you read it?
Yes. Let's make it a bit bigger, I think. Okay. Okay, well, it'll be number 16. I'll just highlight it. 16th commandment, thou shalt not touch or carry no arms to defend or to kill another. Thou shalt not touch or carry no arms to defend or to kill another.
Would it be a good idea to maybe for the knowledge seekers which have been in a lot of platforms of teaching of Mr. Keshe, or even on soul level, in the soul teachings, to start, or if you remember where Mr. Keshe was teaching about this topic, what the consequences are of it. I remember he explained, and it would be nice maybe to bring it on the table by next week, because it might open the path easier in understanding why. If I remember, he opened it up that when a man earns his money, knowing he's producing arms in a factory, that the food he brings on the table and his children, I think you remember where that part might be. Maybe even Jalal, he has a very good memory in those things, or Flint, or Rick, even you. It might be.
I know we had a meme for that, and the meme had the quote from the video that it came from. I think that might help if we find the meme, so I'll look for that.
Yeah.
It's not the same like when you're talking from war in Palestine, and why Mr. Keshe say it's not my purpose for stopping this. I know suffering, people suffering, but it's a right time when learning why it's this. It's why not defend the other? Why not stopping hurricane or changing environment? It's because everything is right place, right time. I know each time is relative. It's the same. It's not defense, not kill and not defend another life. It's only when you're talking from wishes with a letter from Army of United States, it's the same topic.
I did not understand everything what you tried to explain. Maybe Rick can do a recap.
No. Sorry.
Point,
yeah, go ahead, Dan. Try to explain what you said in a different way so we can understand.
It's touching this point, this commandment. When Mr. Keshe responds from one question is made, why not intervene with bringing peace in Palestine or in letter of December army and military, in wish list. Is not purpose of these people is for learning and elevate. I can change this, bringing peace, bringing stop the hurricane, stop changing environment. but it's not right. It's not right for intervene. Is this point of don't kill and not touching army and not defense for defense and for killing. It's the same topic. Which means if what you don't like it, not make it to the other.
Okay, well, I did find the meme for that. In fact, I'll put the. Let me see. I think I can just. I'm just trying to find the actual location here. I think I can just put it in the chat the way it is as the picture. See how that works. There's a link to the thou shalt not carry, touch or carry no arms to defend or to kill another. And here's the part in the Knowledge Seekers workshop where Mr. Keshe talks about that. So maybe we could play that part and shed a little light on that. For this is what you want to bring up for next week's topic, correct, Caroline?
Yes, please, Rick.
So okay, I'll play a bit of it here, and we'll see what was said at that time. Let's see, make sure.
On the meme, it says 54, 55.
Ah, good point. Let me just see that. Yeah, just a second here. A few seconds. Okay, that's just about there. Okay, let me play it through here.
He says, thou shalt not touch or carry no arms to defend or to kill another. He took this out because he wanted to use arms to achieve what he wanted. He says, thou shalt be at peace with oneself, with thy neighbor, his tribe and tribes.
Yeah, I think that gets into another one with that statement, but so he was very clear, I think. Let's go back here.
He says, thou shalt not touch or carry no arms to defend or to kill another. He took this out because he wanted to use arms to achieve what he wanted.
So that was the main reason that that commandment didn't make it into the list, apparently. So I think that's all that's said about that in that point. Isn't it getting into the next commandment?
Yeah, I don't remember. There might be some more discussion before that and some after that, too.
He says,
just have a look at the commandment list. Yeah, this 17th commandment is thou shalt be at peace with oneself, which is what he gets into. And just before this commandment, he was talking about being equal to others and so on. So that was all on that one, just that short bit in this part of the discussion. perhaps there's another link that we could link to that's talks about that concept more.
I know this is Peggy, everybody. I know there's another workshop where Mr. Keshe was speaking of very specifically of the actions of the ones who are killing, using the same hands to kill and then to turn around and feed their family with those same hands. And if anyone could remember that workshop, there are little nuggets in that one, and it's escaping my memory right now. So I just wanted to put that out there in case if it can help someone else remember.
Yeah, it seems like it was probably in the last year and maybe more than 6 months ago or more than 4 months ago, something like that. I don't know. That's a pretty big spread of workshops.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have in my mind another image. What is, when Mr. Keshe is saying, what is better, killing a lamb and food eating, or vegetable? What is worse? No, it's for not killing another entity. I don't know. It's, when you're speaking and listening, I have in my mind passing this image. I remember this piece of workshop of Mr. Keshe, making connection.
Yes, I do remember Mr. Keshe also talking about this idea of not defending another. And that was a kind of a big idea. And this idea that many people have, that we all have a right to defend ourselves. At the same time, do we have a right to defend others in a way? And it sort of it ties into today's workshop on the idea of judgment as well. We have to judge that there's an enemy in order to defend the ones that we want to defend against. And once we define there's an enemy and we are not the enemy, then there's an us and them. That's the dichotomy that comes up. And that's when judgments come in, and all of a sudden there's conflict. Maybe there's a way to resolve the conflict without engaging in making the person or group the enemy, is the idea. But
depends what's defined like an army. Does not touch or carry no arms. Arms in not a physical dimension, like a gun or knife or another thing. One thought or one word, killing also.
Mm-hmm.
Also, these commandments, for what the purpose we are here together for, one planet, one nation, one race, is also how in the understanding of so far the commandments we have gone through, how can we apply them? And I think we should make a list to when we finish, but it should be a nice reminder to add them to our list, which is in the Google Doc, Rick, where we have put our wishes, to form from each commandment what we have gained positive out of it and where we can apply it and how we can apply it. It's not only that we have opened them up, we have debated about them, we have understood or not understood, but what, how and where can we bring them to bring that positive change? Because it might be good for people to start making notes, and as they can be posted in the chat rooms, that the hosts can copy and paste them or bring them to your worksheet, that we have an overview, we have debated them, we have understood up to there, because it's a work which will affect so many people, because they will come back to these sheets of what we have worked on previous to see where they can find their answers and where we found the solutions for the purpose for them to serve. So if we can make these in notes and maybe even bring some of the memories back from the first one, that we can start contemplating them on the files, maybe the first 10, 15 minutes before we start opening a new commandment, to make sure there is an overview of what we worked on, what we have added. But then maybe as we contemplated in a more easier understanding in creating maybe a wish for it, because when we are present in that understanding, then it starts taking its course of its development in the change of the positive. Would that be a good idea, Rick?
Okay, so how would we carry that out? Would we start with that today or next time around? Do we take?
I think we have to for week for next time. To go shortly back to the first one, open. We are only in the third or the fourth, so we can still do the recap and position in connection with the wish with it.
Okay. In the meantime, if anyone has some ideas and happens to be good with doing outlines of previous conversations, some people are really good at recapping like that, then that would be appreciated. And you could contribute that next week, and we could put that together and make an outline of the responses or the understanding that we arrived at with each of these commandments. Okay. Is there more for today, Caroline, or should we wrap things up? It's been, what, 3.5 hours here now?
If people have any more questions or suggestions, we can wrap it up if there's no more.
Well, we're open to comments, suggestions, and anything else to tie things together here. Jalal, you usually come in around now. If you're able. Not sure if he's still here. Yeah, he's still here. Well, people must be either satisfied with today's workshop, or they've all fallen asleep, one or the other. So either way, I think maybe it is time to wrap things up. Are there anything that we need to announce or suggest for people other than what we just talked about? We could, suggest to think about this commandment that we have in front of us now, and some of the ways that can be represented next week.
I would suggest people to go back to last Tuesday, where Mr. Keshe came in. It is a very, very important part in the understanding. It is a beautiful part, and we can even open more next platform for more understanding. I hope people are using the template which we have provided and will be available on the website. Flint, has Ella already contacted you in regards of that?
For the memes or for what?
No, for the letter that we created with our logo. You created that beautiful letter with the logo of the Universal Council.
Yes, that needs to get posted yet, sorry.
Okay, so that is in progress. I know we posted it wherever we could and people have tried to upload it, but it would be nice. People are requesting the PDF files for it or the doc that they can work and fill in the... It is important to send them out, please. It is important to create the awareness without you having to go in a difficult position of trying to defend or explain. But it's an invitation letter to welcome everybody in their own search of what they want to know, who we are, what we do, and it's a friendly invitation that way. So I would really appreciate, Flint, if you could be on our website so people can download. They've been asking me, I thought it was already there. So it will appear very shortly. Thank you very much.
Signora Canoglia, how to helping in this core team presence? It's a private meeting, like knowledge seekers. How to be present with soul, with mind, with intention for elevate.
When you know the announcement has been done that that meeting will take place on Friday, just be aware in your thoughts, and usually the easiest way is to not attach nothing to it, but just freely give from your soul, or what I usually say, I give from my soul to the core team. So then they can achieve and receive from you in all freedom what they need. No more, no less. Thank you for asking.
You could go. I would suggest you could also go with this offering from Gandhi that we so often go back to, and just follow through step by step. And you can offer your support to the core team for the work that they do, to offer their support for the next level and so on. It's all based on support. So you can support by simply offering your peace, your love, your friendship, and see the beauty and hear the need and feel the feelings that are going on, and spread the wisdom from the highest source, and work together. So you can work toward feeling that feeling of unity, that feeling of working toward a common goal, you might say, or a common, working with a common source at least.
You know, I ask him because Friday I participate in another meeting, but I want to offer not only one piece of my soul from this. I want to lock my sensitive, my physicality. It's not only with the thought, with the mind, not one piece. I want more in. I make silence. I like I say pray. I make one moment of peace, and I thinking. I believe it's fair. It's also my heart will tell me this Friday is moment from shut up in physical part. Thanks.
Yeah, well, that's good. I think it can all happen in a moment. It doesn't require that you have to do it all, 24 hours a day. And sending those wishes and that intention can have a big effect. It happens instantaneously and just at the right time. And it's not always easy to control when that is, I suppose. But when the emotion is there and the feelings are there and everything connects, then there's a transmission, there's a field effect that occurs. And you can feel it. And you know that the message has gotten through and that the connection was made.
Another time my calendar is from church. Now it's from Mr. Keshe. Which means I have one nation, one planet. It's knowledge seekers from Romanian team or another team, Spanish, French, or Friday, I forget how to say. When Mr. Kesh learning, and every day by day, it's with from this knowledge, from knowledge. It's beautiful.
Yes, there's many people being influenced by the spread of this knowledge around the planet right now. There's no doubt about that. And we're all very thankful and full of gratitude for the work that Mr. Kesh has done and the work of all the knowledge seekers around the world to keep spreading the knowledge. And that seems to be what it's all about at this point, to continue to show and teach and discuss and all the aspects that we do in order to carry on this special knowledge. Okay, anybody else like to speak up for today?
I will make it maybe easier for the gentleman who came up with this question. I give from my soul. I am present on the Friday meeting of the core team. I am present.
I am present.
I'm present.
I am present.
I am present.
I am present.
My soul is always present.
I am present.
I am present.
Okay, I guess on that note, we should wrap things up for today. And perhaps, Flint, we could have the going out. Do we have our screen share perhaps to start with there?
Yeah, what videos do you want to have for going out here?
Can you give me an optional choice? Is this a multiple choice question, or do I have
I got a couple lined up
correctly? Yeah, go ahead. I'll just say thank you, everybody, for attending the 53rd One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace for Tuesday, October 16th, 2018. It's been a pleasure being your host today, and we'll look forward to the next one, same time, same place next week. And take it away, Flint.
Hello. We are the Keshe Foundation. Our mission is to bring peace on Earth and join humanity with the universal community. We wish and work to bring man as equal to all beings in the universe. By teaching plasma science and technology equally to everyone, no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. By donating to us, you can help achieve this goal. keshefoundation.org/donate.
The process of understanding is very simple. The process is, as I explained last time, I explained more in detail. We are created out of the rays within the center of the universe. In interaction and reduction in strength and division by the strength in certain strength fields, in collection of the totality of the expansion of the universe, some energies, some dynamic fields have come together. Over billions of years, these fields lead to the creation of what we call the sun. Where the plasma gathers together. The same process repeats again because the sun is the same as the energy center of the universe. Now, the heavier, the larger amount of the energy which is collected in this span of the universe, called the sun, that irradiates out, does the same thing again. Radiates its fields out, and in interaction with the itself, with the fields of itself, leads to creation of planet. In that process of the creation of planet, the same process happens again. In the interaction of the fields of the earth with its environment and cooling and exchange with the strength of the other things in the environment of the space of the solar system leads to creation of man, cell, matter state. And that itself, in coming together and slowing down in certain ways, as we call, leads to another sun. We call the soul of the man. This is the truth about the life and creation of the man. But if the soul of the man can understand and absorb and be correct with his conduct, he can become the strength of the fields and carry the strength of the field of the planet which came to this creation. And if the soul can understand with the same process, can interact, can be correct, can absorb with itself the totality of the strength of what it needs, he shall become the sun. And then the same soul has the energy that it can absorb within the solar system, within the galaxy, shall become the center of the universe. Earth, we call it the rain, come from and goes back to. In the solar system, we call it planetary system. We come from the rays, we become the planet, and we go back to the mother. The same thing happens with the galaxies, with the solar systems, which they get absorbed back in and they chewed up back into the universe. The life, the process of existence in the universe is the same. It doesn't matter on what exchange and what extent. So, what is the man fighting for? Why do we fight for something which has come from the point of the creation, and in the process it goes back to the creation? The soul of the man, as the energy of the earth, gives the face of the man, the face of the earth, and that process is the same for the soul of the man. Our soul, in reduction in strength, in interaction with the emotion of the field of the environment, leads to manifestation of the existence of the man. But once it's completed, does it need the face? Or can it be and becomes free from it, what we call the soul of the man, be free and detached from its existence? Our soul is part of the process of the creation. The key to one question, who man shall be in the future, to be answered. As we saw the sun became the earth, and as we saw the earth became man's soul, what would be the destiny of the soul of the man now becomes free at the point of departure from physicality. Would it become the sun for creation of another life, or many lives, or correction of lives? This shall be, and this is how it happens. When you create a soul which is not correct, which is misconduct by itself cannot give, you lead to the creation of this next cycle of creation, which has started the wrong way, the wrong strength. This is one thing the man has never understood. You become the creator of another universe, another cycle. And this is what you have to judge within the structure of the soul of the man. What would I like that cycle to be? In the physical life, we create children. In the dimension of the life of the soul of the man, what that man, what that soul will create. If man has thought up to now, that's it, my end, my point, when I die is finished, there's as much fallacy that when the sun is destroyed in any shape or form, there shall be nothing left. But we know the part of the sun becomes part of the galaxy and becomes part of new life. So shall be the soul of the man. The judgment of the man has to be according to what he sees the future his soul can conduct to be. The day of judgment is for the man, not in front of the Creator. That what my soul judges to be and what shall create. Man never understood and shall never understand till can solve this dilemma within itself. The reality is very, very, very real. And that is, as we've seen, the energy of the galaxy become the sun, the energy of the sun has become the earth, and the energy of the earth has become the soul of the man. So shall be the soul of the man, which is the energy itself, another cycle of life. How can you change when you don't understand? How can you change the process of understanding if you do not understand the process of the creation? Do we need to extend the understanding of the man that what is the future he brings? We care about our children, what education they get, what they wear, how happy they'll be, where they sleep. Now the man has to be careful and consider what life shall my soul create, because those are the children of your soul. As we see, the rays of the sun has become a planet and 7 billion children of it. 7 billion unlimited, which is growing. So the soul of the man will go through the same process. How many billions and subdivisions and sub-matter state of the physicality of the man your soul shall create? Would it be the soul of wars and conflict and forever killing? Or would it be the soul of this, let's say, solar system, which is peaceful? This is the truth and the reality about the soul of the man. First of all, as I said many times recently, we never understood that the soul of the man is within the structure of the man. And now that we understood, we understand on departure from the physicality of the man, the same process will carry on as it did for a star, a planet. And the soul of the man becomes another energy source, a higher order, which itself leads to the creation. It becomes the star, it becomes the center of the new cycle of creation. This is what the human race has to understand. The cycle actually starts from the point of death and not finishes at the point of death. In so many ways, if one understands, is as the specks of dust came together to make the earth in the solar system, so has the specks of the atoms has come to be the creator of man. And the essence of the creation of the specks of dust on the solar system has led to the creation of man. So shall be the fields from the soul of the man which lead to creation of another cycle of life. What kind of life man would like to have to be created by his soul? This is the day of judgment. This is what man never understood. Now you have to understand. You have no choice. Up to today you were not aware of it. From today you are aware of it. You are responsible for it. Your conduct has to be to elevate your soul. That in elevating the soul, what you become the creator of stands correct in the conduct of the citizens. We don't give a fairy tale. This is the truth. But as you've seen, the process does not stop with one sun. The cycle carries on. It's very interesting in how humanity now knows in fact to handle the fact. It'll take decades for man to understand, and then you understand those who become the tools of war, the tools of conflict. They have nothing to start with. They have to become the dust in the solar systems of the others till the day they learn more, as they cannot create a new cycle through their own soul. This is the elevation of the soul of the man. To be part of the creation of a beautiful life for the next cycle. When you don't have it, you have to become another cell in the body of the structure of the bigger, for you to be just there that it can done when you could have been the soul of the man. They say, do not create fear. I give you the point of love for creation. If you cared about your children on this planet to have the best, your true children come out of your own soul in the coming time. How would you like to educate them? How would you like to be when you are in conflict with yourself and the cause of so much mayhem? This is the truth. And the man will take a long time to understand, as now that we understand the soul of the man is an operator for the creation of the future extent of the life of the man. Whatever is gathered by the soul at the end becomes his point of reference of his own creation of his own dimension. But the strangest thing is, what he creates from his soul shall become the creator of the other souls. This is the beauty about the creation, and one understands it, understands no limitation.